let's try this. So, blank sheet of paper, lots of potential specimens, you know, these things. So I start off by focusing in on something like the first one. So put these off to the side. I think I'll start with my sunflower, and just for the sake of this demo so that you can see it pretty easily, I'm going to move it up to here. And then I'll put other things around it, like focusing on maybe some leaves and a few other, you know, whatever I see. I'm gonna take this idea, and if I even move it slightly over to here, I can draw it like right down here. So I'm putting it on my paper so that I can observe it and then mimic it right in this area. And so the easiest way to start this process is I take a just an average HB pencil, nothing too dark, nothing too like solid, nothing like a light silvery gray H pencil. I don't want anything that, you know, silvery. I just want something I can leave a mark. HB is like #2 pencil. First of all, I'm just going to quickly draw guidelines just around my page to just say, here's my frame. I'm going to work inside this area. So I'm going to take this and kind of like just simplify it into just a basic space and form to see if I like. There, comes out, around it goes up. And just kind of start the process by guessing where it would be on the paper. Like give it a good arranged size, I guess you would say. Well, again, like I said, I kind of just break it into basics. There's a little leaf underneath of here. There's the stem. The stem goes and goes and goes and goes off to the edge of the paper. And something like this. It has a little bit of a shadow underneath of it. And then there's this leaf that is right about here. And notice I'm holding my pencil far down. If I do this, I don't get a lot of control and I just rub my hand. I'm left-handed, but you kind of like don't have the maneuverability, if you will. And for, again, left-handed people, we tend to smear stuff. So I'm pulling it back a little bit further. And this gives me a way to kind of guess sort of where I have to go. And so, like, I start to fill in some of the other bits that I find intriguing. There's this wild, crazy little curly leaf. It's not exactly like what it actually is at the moment. I'm making these little marks as placeholders. Let's see. Yep. And it just kind of helps guide me to where eventually I can start putting in more finer details. So this is just an impression. And then I come in and then I usually move my hand a little tighter and start really pulling out the very specifics, where I start to see like segments. So there's like a leaf and a leaf and a leaf cupping the bottom. And then there's this wonderful little leaf that's turned over and another petal that is dry here. And little chunky bits or, you know, toothy bits. One's beautiful leaves and petals and parts that were very soft, and now it's all dried up, which is my favorite actually. So as you can start to see, it's coming together, but it takes time. One of the best parts about this that I love, that I just want to show you, is you get, I'm going to use one of these little blending stumps, or, you know, and I love the shadows that this casts, which is just kind of dramatically interesting, fun, you know. I'll change over to something really soft. This is a 9B. It's like as soft as it comes. It's very, very nice. I'll turn it to the side a little bit. Just run my pencil underneath of it. Kind of scuff it down. Pull out under here. And this kind of, see how I kind of have a nice dark spot? So I'm going to take my tortillon at the moment, just blending stub, what you will, and just, it's kind of just pushing it into the paper, buffing it if you want to call it that. Just in fact, you can really just pick up enough, like I put down enough of this so that it picks it up onto the blending stump, and then just kind of like draw with a shadow. It's just because it's enough of the graphite onto this, I can kind of plot my way around here. Eventually, you know, all this kind of gets toned to some degree. I mean, you could take it right with just the HB pencil, moving it to a cleaner spot. You could totally start turning this all shades of light gray, push this down, put that little cast shadow underneath of there, pull it out, because you want to have, and this is the thing I was trying to mention, is that there are parts of this flower that you instantly want to take your pencil, and at first you might think, I'm going to draw 2 lines that make a stem, and it designates like a channel, and that's the stem, and you usually use such a hard dark line, but in reality the stem itself is really light, and everything around it kind of isn't. I mean, it stands out, so you have to remember that's a negative space, like it's the white of the, well, the creaminess of the paper left. So I usually kind of designate this area and channel it so it's nice and kind of a lighter space. I'll even go back with my little eraser area and kind of clean up a little space where this is going to be the white area. So you just want to find those places where there's lights are light and darks are dark. Our brain always plays tricks on us. So it can be very frustrating. So I'm just going to go in and push a little bit more into here. What's interesting is that there's all these little hairy bits on here, and the hair is like these white fuzzy pieces, and to the eye it's very visible, like you can see it, it makes sense, but in order to interpret it with graphite, you have to kind of do this dance between putting in the background of gray so that the white bits stay there. So a lot of times, here's what I'll do, I'll put in gray tonal areas, and by the way, I'll take some pictures and post this as just photos instead of it being completely a video. So I'll put in some darker areas, and that way you'll be able to start to see. And it's subtle. It takes a little while to build up these tones. The more you buff it in, kind of circular motion. And so now this starts to show up. And eventually what I'll do is, once I get more detail on there and that sort of thing, I'll come by with my little eraser and pull out these little white furry bits. You can move to a mechanical pencil because it has such precision, little teeny tiny point, and that's good to get in there and just kind of work around the little furry bits, and you start to see, like if I work behind the little white marks that I made, it makes the white marks stand out even more, so it starts to feel fuzzier. Then I come by and just kind of wisp them away so it doesn't look so harsh. It's always a dance between using this to smudge and blend, and then back with some texture, because otherwise it looks like just a smudgy mess. So you want to do this control. You want to do smudgy and texture, smudgy and texture. And so I just look for some of the darker bits. This might be a little bit of this. And this is way early in the precision, meaning that it's not really looking like anything right now. It will get there, but you have to build it up, so it does take a little bit of time. And so you got to just keep asking yourself, what's light is light, what's dark is dark, and so you keep working it in as you go. Yes, there'll be these little I'm losing my track. I got so into this all of a sudden I was losing my train of thought here. There'll always be these levels of like, am I doing this right? You hate it, and then all of a sudden it starts to come together, and then it's starting to look really good again, but then it's like, it's not looking good. So you're getting kind of a sketchy impression. And so this is all within here that I'm doing. Eventually, like I said, this will tone, kind of looking for a little bit of tone. And when I have all these like scratchy lines, I'm just going to go back and kind of soften them out a bit, blend them down so they don't look so identifiably pencily, like sketchy lines. But I'm not going to like be like, oh, that's acceptable. Never acceptable. You want to come back and just kind of put some texture back in it. Like this. And then all of a sudden it's starting to be there. It's always a push and pull. A little bit of an erase will make it stand out a little bit more. So it's pushing areas dark like this. And then, oh, and so as we're making this start to happen, you can also spot treat it if you want. If there's some intriguing areas, you can put a little bit of color to it. So I pick up some just random colors. I try not to go for like bright perfect yellow per se and just use one tone. I'll take two, maybe a brownish tone and a yellow, and maybe, because I'm using the things that are informative, and the color is informative. It tells your audience that this is a particular like sunflower at the end of its lifespan, like it's in the final stages where it's going to seed. So having some of these colors are actually informative. When it goes down, it's really super bright yellow, which I hate because it looks a little artificial. So I'll put in some of the golder tones. I'll go back. And I'm using it along with the graphite just to, you know, I'm not doing it like a perfect cookie cutter, colored in cartoony sort of feel like a coloring book. I'm just kind of scratching some colors on the page to just insinuate a little bit of tone. Something like that. Going around. And then, so also remember when you're ready to use color pencil that you want to make sure that your lines are satisfying in graphite that you have. If there's anything you need to erase or fix, do it before you hit it with some color, because a lot of times these trap graphite onto the paper. So if you go to erase this, say you have lines there that you're like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. It can be at times troubling, like really hard to get it to go away. Sometimes because it's a waxy pencil, so it gets it kind of stuck in there. So you can go over it with graphite, which is nice. You can draw on top of your colored pencil, but the reverse is a little bit harder. So you just want to be mindful that you want to make sure that the graphite that's there is satisfying enough that you're not going to make any changes to it. Hit it with some colored pencils, and then you can go back and hit it with more graphite. It's just that don't trap things in, like, don't trap mistakes if you don't have to. So I might go with, this is a little interesting color. Let's try this. Add a little bit of gold to it. Maybe some green. Like, I have this awful artificial green, but if I layer it with a little bit of, see, it's very bluish green and dark. But if I go over it with a little bit of gold, there's the color I want. Just a little bit of tone. And as you can hopefully start to see, I'm gonna go in a little and see if you can't. A little bit more. I'm getting some of this to happen. So this is just an impression. It takes, let's see, this took me how many minutes? 15 minutes to start to do that. To finish something like one of these, it will take a bit of time. The best thing I would say is, as it's sitting there as is and you're working on it, one of the things, if you can remind yourself, take a picture of it as is. There might be a moment where you do this, you record enough information, and you move on, or something moves it and you lose it in some way, or it falls apart, right? So if you have it on camera, take a picture of it. You can always go back and kind of spot treat areas that you need more detail. Sometimes the camera, you can really zoom in and focus in an area that is interesting to you. One of the other things is, I was practicing earlier today, and as I was laying out my paper, I'm gonna put it this way so it's sort of, hopefully, yeah, easy to see. I was playing around and trying different things, you know, taking a thistle thing. Oh, it's actually a black-eyed Susan, or no, it's echinacea, I think. It's gone now. It's just what's left of this. I had it here and I was drawing with it, and laying things out. I even had something really detailed like this thing, and I was drawing that here, but I was really interested in the berries. And so as I was sitting here, let's see if you can still see that. As I was sitting there drawing it, this was the area that was starting to come together really tight and nice, and it was starting to be intriguing. So I had all the information that was kind of subtle, but I only kind of color treated the one area, and all I did was I had an old children's Q-tip, or yeah, Q-tip thing. Took them all out, used the circle, I put it around, I drew this circle, took off the little circle area, and what I would do is, like, maybe just do gray graphite out here, but just in the middle, do where all the color is, and just kind of, you know, it informs your audience. It's like very organized, graphic-y sort of trick to play, like this makes it focus. And I also kind of like put words like color change in stem, so the stem changed colors. It was going from like a burgundy to a light green. So I'm writing notes to myself to kind of turn this into, you know, just put down more information for myself. This is your only record in history of what you're looking at. It's as if we didn't have smartphones to take with us, and it's your recorded history of what you're looking at. So hope this helps. Again, so just one last thing. I started with my sunflower here, and once I'm done drawing that and I feel pretty good and I might have written a couple notes, then I'll move on and just see what I mean, the seeds. I might find a little place maybe up here and focus in on this and draw a next one maybe right here. And the thing is, you can physically put things down on paper and maybe, you know, find a place where something else happens. Put something here, put something there. And you might be able to do, you know, 5 drawings on a paper. You might only wind up with 3. But what you definitely don't want to have are areas that are just empty. So this whole composition, what we're left with, doesn't come together and doesn't read nicely. So fill it in with words. I've seen in some cases people actually tape, you know, like a little scotch piece of tape or something, or masking tape, and they'll tape it to the actual paper. Not that you have to do that, but if it's like one of these things that you want to save for later, they're so bulky and weird and eventually falls apart. So your recorded information usually works, but I've seen it done that way too. And so continue on and eventually, like, just sit there and pull it together and make it kind of interesting. And okay, thank you. More photos later.